How's it going? I am in Amman. I think I'm live. Jordan. Put a comment and let me know where you're at. I'd like to know where people are watching from, and where are you? Lets me know that you can hear what I'm saying. It looks to me like you can hear. May have to go down the stairs here. And we'll see. I've got to keep going. I'm in a hotel just outside Amman, and I'm going to get something to eat with my lovely wife. There we go. Okay. Thought I'd bring you along. Pretty view of the Dead Sea. So here we. Is there any possible way we could turn the music down a little bit?
Of course.
So we are out here in Jordan, and there's the very nice view right there. But the Dead Sea out there, and we are just having some snacks here on the balcony overlooking the ocean. We are planning a trip, a group to Israel. A couple days in Jordan and the rest of the time in Israel. This is this coming October, probably the first week of October, I think. And okay, there we go. I was running around here. Here, you want to put that on, and then you can talk to him.
I don't have much to say.
Well, you might.
Coffee.
Oh, my coffee, great. This too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Oh no, sit right here.
Okay.
Yes, it's
yeah,
great. Thanks.
My name's Khalil. Anything you want?
Khalil. Okay, thank you, Khalil. I love the Turkish coffee in Jordan. It's actually where I started drinking coffee. I never drank coffee until I was about 40 years old. 40? No, about 30. It was right when I started.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, mid-30s. Never drank coffee, and then I came to Jordan on a press trip in 2003. And I thought, well, why not? You know, when in Rome, they keep feeding me this Turkish coffee, and so I'll drink it. And it's got cardamom in it, the spice. And I don't know what it is about that cardamom. Connie doesn't like it. It bothers your stomach, right?
Yeah, I don't like it.
But
yeah, I don't like it.
But I love it.
I don't even really like the smell of it.
For me, it's like
Yeah.
catnip or something. It's just like, it's really good. I like it. So, hope you all are doing well. Maybe Connie can read that. I didn't bring my glasses. It just keep an eye on it and see if there's any.
I can't read from that far
Oh,
away.
you can't read it either?
I am.
We'll bring them closer.
I can run up and get my phone. You want me to go get my phone?
That's all right. I'll put it right there. How's that?
I don't know if I still can read it. We're
We'll
getting
see.
old, babe.
Almost read it.
Do you
Very
want me to
close.
go get your glasses?
No.
Okay.
Well, if you can't read it, then maybe you better.
Here, give me the key.
So we are having we're just kind of having a down day here in Jordan. Getting across the border was kind of interesting because I have a drone with me that I brought when I first came. I had the drone. When I came straight to Israel from Armenia back in October, right after the attack. Oh, what's this?
Bye.
Snack tray.
Bye.
Okay, let's see. Oh, look at that.
With this cheese roll.
Cheese rolls. Oh, those are
Yes.
very good. I had
Yeah,
those last
and
time.
Veta balls also.
Uh-huh. That's very
Yes.
nice. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Excellent. And what's this again?
This is lemon with mint.
Lemon mint.
Yes.
Very nice. It's just like a lemonade, right? It's not
Yeah.
alcoholic.
No alcoholic.
No alcohol.
Yes. Only lemon and mint and some sugar.
Lemon, mint, and sugar. Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love the food in Jordan. It's really good. So we're going to come to this hotel when we do our tour. I think this will be the first night. This is the Hilton Dead Sea Resort. It's actually not that expensive. It's a 5-star hotel. They've got several levels of swimming pools going down to the Dead Sea, and then mud baths down there, and you can swim in the Dead Sea and everything. It'll be a lot of fun. We've already had a whole bunch of people that have expressed interest in going with us to Israel in October of next year. So we'll be here for the 1-year anniversary of the attack, which I'm positive there will be some, big to-do about. And so we'll be here for that. So we'll probably come the first week of October for that trip. Anyway, so coming across the border today, I was a little nervous because twice now I have been turned away at that border crossing. And every time I've been turned away, I've had to wait like 3 days in order to come to get back across for whatever reason. 2 different reasons. But so they say they close at 3, but then if you show up at noon, they say, oh, well, you have to be there 3 hours early, and if you're not, then you can't come through, and blah, blah, blah. So we left early today, about 11, and we got there just before noon. No, we got there about 11:30, I guess, to the border crossing. Got across fairly easily, except for the fact that I had this drone. And I didn't bring the drone into Jordan when I came in on this last trip because, I came to Israel directly from Armenia on the 10th of October, right after the attack. And then I went home, but I flew out of Jordan for just like 1 day, did a speech in Texas, and then flew back here with my wife and my daughter. And we flew into Amman and then drove down to Petra and crossed at Eilat, which is quite a bit. It's a lot different down there. And so I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. Dad joke central. So when I left my drone in Israel when I left, and so I didn't have to worry about it leaving or coming back. This time I'm taking everything with me. And I got here with my drone, and they're like, oh, this is very bad. You can't have a drone, And I'm thinking, I said, look, we're just going to the airport. We're just leaving. I said, oh, no, you can't have a drone. So it took, I don't know, probably an hour and a half. What do you think, babe? At the
maybe.
border crossing? Yeah, it took like an hour and a half to get across, and most of that was just waiting for them as they called higher and higher up the food chain to try to figure out what to do with my drone. I was ready to just give it to them. It's an old drone. It's a cheap drone, very, very small, cheap drone. So, I thought, well, if they really make a big deal out of it, I'm just going to say, keep it. You guys can have it. What I could do is if I could get them to give me the controller and just take the drone itself, I can replace that fairly cheap. So I wasn't real upset about it or worried about it. But in the end, they took me back in this long hallway back. It took me away, had Connie wait there, and then I left, and I was gone for like 40 minutes while I sat there and waited. And they finally came and they said, in very, very broken English, you you put your drone in this bag, and we let you take it to the airport. And when you get to the airport, then they will open the bag and you can take the drone out, just to make sure that I don't actually fly the drone when I'm, in Jordan. I was like, fine, that's whatever. And they say, okay, it's 306 Jordanian dinar. And I was like, hang on a second. I pulled out my phone and did a little calculation. I was like, whoa, wait a second, that's $450. I said, this drone is not worth $450. You can have it. Just keep it, and I'll buy another one. And they're like, this drone is worth more than $400. I said, no, it's actually not. It's old. And when I bought it, it was only, $350 or something. Now it's much less. And so they're like, well, they had to go get somebody who spoke better English to come and actually explain it to me. He said, what you're doing is you're putting a deposit on this, and then when you get to the airport, you get your deposit back. So you'll get your money back. You just have to show up at the airport with this drone still in the bag and unopened. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, well, all right, that's fine, no problem. So I went and got the cash out. I paid him the money, and then, it was just a big rigmarole, really. And we took a taxi, came to this hotel, and got some lunch, took a nap. Now we're going to get some dinner, and we're going to head out to the airport. So that's my adventure for the day. Now, did you get my glasses, babe?
Yeah, they're
Oh, here they are.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put these on just to make sure. Your poll was blank. It just said yes or no. Did you put a poll up?
I didn't put a poll up.
I didn't put a poll up. Yeah, this is not Maxwell House. I promise you that. It's very thick. They put the grounds in the coffee. The grounds are like this much of the coffee. And that cardamom gives it a very, very distinct flavor, which I think is delicious. But Connie doesn't
this
like
is
it.
your plate. They brought 2 plates of this. So this one's yours.
That's fine. They're good. These little things are good. These
Yeah,
cheese filled.
they're all tasty. Yeah.
I don't know what they are.
I just didn't want to be munching in my microphone.
Oh, they're good. So, yeah, French press coffee is better for every day. But when you're in Jordan, at least to me, it brings back good memories, because that trip to Jordan was my first overseas trip working for CBN as a correspondent. And so it takes me back. It was like 20 years ago, and it really reminds me of my early days as a correspondent. Who's moderating? I don't know. Is Nathan moderating?
Nathan is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my son Nathan's moderating, I guess.
It's not always me, folks.
And so, all right, let's talk about if you can taste the coffee, it needs more creamer. Then you're not a coffee drinker, you're a creamer drinker. All right, so let's talk about Israel and what's going on there. I've been learning so much this trip about just how dysfunctional the United Nations is. She said, how long is the flight? It's 12 and a half hours back to D.C. direct. So the United Nations has agencies stationed all throughout the Middle East, and especially around Israel. So up in the north, you've got UNFIL, United Nations force in Lebanon. It's actually a interim force in Lebanon. It's supposed to be interim just for a bit. Not going to be there very long, but you go back and do some research on when was the United Nations interim force in Lebanon created. It was like in the 1970s. It was like 1978. And it's still there. And their job is to keep the peace on the northern border, to ensure that the Israeli army left after the last war in 2006, which they did, and to ensure that Hezbollah does not anymore have forces south of the Litani River, which it has never complied with, and certainly not today. So I may come back to Israel after Christmas, depends on what's happening.
Oh, the white box, this thing? Is that bothering him?
That thing?
Is that better, folks?
Yeah, that's probably better. So, the United Nations force in Lebanon, which doesn't have any Americans in it, it's got people from China, people from Mali, Poland, and I mean places like that. And but guess who it's funded by? The United States is funding a good portion of that. So they made sure that Israel left southern Lebanon, and they did not make sure that Hezbollah left southern Lebanon, and Hamas now, and the PIJ, and there's all kinds of bad people in southern Lebanon that are not supposed to be, be down there. And what does UNFIL do now? They disarm bombs that land and don't explode. And apparently not much else. But Italy's got like 1,000 soldiers there. Spain, they've got thousands of soldiers in UNFIL, blue helmeted, driving white armored vehicles around southern Lebanon, and they're doing absolutely nothing. Then you have UNDOF, the United Nations demarcation of forces or something like that. Anyway, their name is pretty weird, but UNDOF is the United Nations force that's stationed between Israel and Syria up in the Golan Heights. And they haven't done anything either. They're supposed to make sure that I read in their charter, it's like they're supposed to be there to make sure that both sides use maximum restraint. That's what they're supposed to do. Well, I've been here before, like 6 or 8 years ago, reporting on the fact that people from Syria, these are militias, jihadi groups, stuff like that, regularly shoot mortars across into the Golan Heights. And they don't even do it. The Golan Heights is sparsely populated, right? And so it's way out. There's some kibbutzim up there, but there's a lot of agriculture up there and stuff. So they fire mortars across just to set the fields on fire, and they burn down the livelihoods of the people that live in the kibbutzim up there. So what does UNDOF do? Exactly nothing. Okay, so worse than that is now UNRWA down in the United Nations Works and Relief Agency, which again was put in place in the 60s well, I'm getting to that question, Tim. Tim, why does the UN always condemn Israel for defending itself and ignore what the other people are doing? I'm getting to that. So UNRWA has been in Gaza since the 60s and has literally poured billions of dollars into Gaza in quote unquote aid, building schools and stuff like that. And they are now being shown to be specifically facilitating terror from Gaza, meaning as the IDF goes into Gaza and starts tearing it apart, what they're finding is that any place they find a UN school, UN anything, It's going to have tunnels in it. It's going to have weapons in it. It's going to have fighting positions. It's going to have rocket launching stations. It is going to be a militarized building. And so today in Gaza, they absolutely pancaked a gigantic UN school, big white multi-story building that looked like it took up at least an acre, probably more, probably like 5 acres. It was a big building. And they blew that thing to kingdom come today and flattened it because it was a gigantic fortress for Hamas. I put the video of that explosion up on my locals page. If you go over to chuckholton.com, you can see that explosion, and it is spectacular. It's worth seeing. But of course, the United Nations and all of the media and the left are going to completely set their hair on fire because of that. Oh my gosh, the Israelis blew up a school. Well, when the school is operating as a fortress for Hamas, then it's a legit military target, and that's what they did. They blew it up. So again, this is another. UNRWA's budget is like $1.6 billion a year. Thank you for the Thank you for the super chats. We certainly appreciate those. It's like $1.6 billion a year, billion with a B. That doesn't all come from the United States, but a good portion of it does. More than $330 million given to Hamas itself last year, not including what goes to UNRWA. I think it's probably about that goes to UNRWA, actually. You have funds coming from Qatar. Qatar has been giving hundreds of millions of dollars to Gaza. I say Gaza in various different forms, in aid, in money, and whatever, giving it to UNRWA. China has been giving money to them. I mean, everybody's been giving money to Gaza, and they've had billions and billions of dollars. So this is going back to your question, is like, why does the UN always condemn Israel when one of the reasons the UN was actually created was because of Israel? And, they were kind of meant to be a pro-Israel thing, I think, at the beginning and after World War II. But why are they always condemning Israel? Well, if you start looking at the amount of money that gets funneled through the United Nations to all these various organizations, UNFIL, UNDOF, and UNRWA, and the UN actually has a lot inside Israel itself, what you're going to start to realize is that if the need for those people goes away because things are peaceful in Israel.
But could I have a regular coffee? Regular coffee, cream sugar?
I'm eating a.
You need it American or Turkish?
This is a cheese blintz or something. I don't know what this is. It's some.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is just a selection of
We don't have spring coffee. We have
Jordanian pastries and stuff. They're great.
it's okay.
They're really good. But if things calm down between Israel and its neighbors, then all those UN agencies don't need to exist anymore. I mean, all of them have been in place since before 1980. So most of them more than 40 years. Some of them more than 50 years. And if there's peace in the Middle East, if there's peace between Israel and its neighbors, those guys don't have a reason to exist. And I just am starting to believe that these guys have a vested interest in keeping Israel in conflict with its neighbors. Now, some interesting articles that are coming out that are tying Bibi Netanyahu to all of this, and basically saying that Netanyahu pushed for the Israelis to greenlight the giving of aid from Qatar, monthly payments in cash, in suitcases full of cash, that get carried through Israel and into Gaza up until October 7th. And have been going on for years. And this was done with the express knowledge and consent of Netanyahu. And he argued against some other people in the Knesset that this was necessary. And basically his his line of thinking was that if we buy them off, if we'll placate them with money. So if the Qataris want to give them a bunch of money, that'll placate Hamas, and then they won't bother us anymore. That was his strategy. This is being reported in local news outlets, and now like CNN and stuff is picking it up as well. So what that means is that Israel actually believed that by keeping all of this aid flowing into Gaza and keeping it Dependistan, that the Gazans would just be fat and happy and they wouldn't be a threat. Well, there's going to be a comeuppance for that. I can promise you. And once this is all over, it's starting to look like Netanyahu is going to get booted out the door, and he'll be lucky if he doesn't get tarred and feathered in the process. Was that a question that went by? Let's see. Enjoy your Christmas. Oh, yes, we are going to be. Thank you, Tina. Very kind of you. We are going to be spending time with the grandkids, and we've got 2 of them and 2 more on the way, and we are very excited about that. Thank you, Dominic. Let's see. If Trump was in office now, what do you think? Well, I mean, Trump was certainly much friendlier to Israel than Biden is. And I don't know. I mean, that's kind of Trump's shtick, right? Is that nobody really knows what he's going to do. And because nobody really knows what he's going to do, he's unpredictable on the world stage. It caused a lot of bad people to take pause at pursuing their objectives and wait for a more flaccid United States administration, and that's where we are today. So I think that it's pretty crazy that Israel knew and was approving of these literal suitcases full of cash that were being shipped through Israel into Gaza. And in Gaza, of course, I mean, I was there, again, it's probably 6 years ago, I was down there, and you could just see that I mean, Gaza was just a hellhole back then, but yet there are over 700 millionaires in Gaza, multimillionaires, and the billionaires, the Gazan billionaires all live in Qatar. They're all the leadership. But 700 millionaires living in a city the size of Philadelphia, that's the size of Gaza. And obviously much of that money came from the aid that was flowing in there, because there really is no industry in Gaza to speak of at all. So in a way, I think that you could make the case that we in the West are responsible for what happened in some sense on October 7th. Now, I'm not going to say that the sin is ours. I mean, that, these poor Palestinians in Gaza, they couldn't help it because we put them up to it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that we, in some sense, facilitated or enabled the Gazans to do what they did on October 7th because of the massive, massive amounts of aid that we kept shoveling into Gaza. And Gaza could have 6 Burj Khalifa skyscrapers with the concrete that they bought and shipped into Gaza, but they used it all for tunnels instead. So Gaza could look like Singapore, but if we've learned anything from the absolute disaster of American inner cities, it's that no matter how much aid you pump into anything, it will not improve, because aid ends up fostering the very problems that it's meant to address. And so that's exactly what we've been doing. And I think that the United Nations and even many governments, they understand that pumping more aid into some place does not fix the problem. They understand it doesn't work. But they don't care because that's not their objective. Their real objective is not to help the people of Gaza. Their real objective is to enable themselves to stay in power, is to be able to have that kind of control over people, keep people dependent, and even if we're keeping people that are not voters dependent, the people that are across the ocean, what that enables the politicians to do is to say, look what we are doing. We're so magnanimous. Look how generous we are. We're helping out the needy over there. So for the large number of American young people, voters, who are supporters of Hamas and the Palestinians, specifically because they went to American universities that are funded by Qatar, specifically to teach them that they need to support the Palestinians. This is what we get. Is that not crazy? Nancy, you said you're going to miss me in my interesting reporting. I'm not going to stop reporting.
Oh, we're on the Dead Sea.
Yeah, we're on the Dead Sea, not the Red Sea.
And we don't know what we're eating. It's dark out here.
Yeah, we're eating a selection of Jordanian goodies. Cheese, fried cheese, looks like some falafel-looking things, some kibbeh, which is like falafel with meat inside. It's good. I haven't even tried that lemonade thing yet.
It was good. I drank mine.
Just gross.
Actually, it was good. This stuff I did not like that much.
Yeah, that's tapenade. It's kind of a creamy tapenade. It's got olives in it.
No.
You don't think so?
Uh-uh.
I like it. I like everything. I'm easy.
Oh, there's the kitties.
So yeah, there's tons of cats out here, and we're, I think, the only guests. Well, we're definitely the only guests out here at this restaurant right now.
At happy hour.
And it's amazing this hotel is even functioning. I mean, this war has caused all of the tourism in this whole region to just disappear. And so you go anywhere and it's just like you got the whole place to yourself. Yes, we're on our way home, and we're going to be heading to the airport here in a little bit. But I'm not going to quit reporting. I'll keep reporting once I get back to the lodge in West Virginia. And I may take a couple days off over Christmas, but I'll be back. Don't worry. I'll keep doing this.
Israel's in the background.
Yeah. The lights off there in the distance, that's Israel. We're in Jordan on this side of the Dead Sea. Did I eat tilapia at Capernaum yesterday? No, we did not. I have eaten tilapia there before, but not this trip. Now, I'm not the kind of person who's completely against aid money or, using money to try to accomplish our national objectives outside the United States. You always hear this argument whenever the United States is spending money on anything. Well, they ought to be spending that money on our homeless. We ought to give that money to our veterans, whatever. It is possible to do two things at once. And so, without a doubt, the U.S. government is broke. Everything we spend at this point, thank you, Defying the Meta, everything we spend at this point is going on a Chinese credit card. Despite the fact that people like you and me send massive amounts of our money, we don't even understand how much, to the federal government every year, and that number keeps going up. Most people have no idea how much they're actually paying in taxes. When you look at federal, state, local, municipal tax, property tax, sales tax, travel tax, gas tax, cell phone tax, it just goes on and on and on. Road tolls, it's not uncommon for most Americans to spend half of their money on taxes when you add everything up. And we just don't even know it because the government is very good. Man, that's good. The government is very good at hiding it from us. what we're spending. But I challenge you at the end of this year to go back and look at your pay stubs or look at, your tax bill and start adding up federal, state, local, property, income tax, travel tax. Half of what you spend on plane tickets is tax. I spent more than $25,000 last year on travel taxes alone. The tax you spend whenever you stay in a hotel, the tax, it just goes on and on and on. But just try to get a ballpark figure of what you're actually paying. It is so ridiculous. That's what made me move to Panama. Yeah, your 39.6% tax bracket is ridiculous. If you look at like my income tax, before we moved to Panama, we added up everything we paid in taxes the year before which was 2012, the last year of the first Obama administration, and we ended up paying like 62% of our income in taxes. And I just said, like, it's too much. I can't do that. It's just too much. And that was one of the big reasons we moved to Panama, was just to lower our tax bill. By qualifying, because most of my work is done outside the United States, I qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion. I can get away with, or not get away with, but I can avoid a lot of what I would be paying in taxes, and actually save more money than it costs me to live in Panama, and legally, do that. So Panama has a loophole down there, because the reason they give you that foreign earned income exclusion from the IRS is because if you're an expat and you live in another country, you pretty much always have to pay taxes in that country also. And if you had to pay taxes, say, in Ireland and in the United States, you could actually end up with a tax bill that's more than 100% of your income. So you can write off, like between Connie and I, it's like over $200,000 a year, and pay no federal tax on that. We still have to pay Medicare and Social Security and all that stuff, but that dramatically reduces our tax bill. And as long as my bona fide abode is outside the United States, and I don't spend too much time in the U.S. for pleasure, then I can write that off. I can get away without having to pay a large portion of my federal tax bill. But by living in Panama, Panama doesn't tax you on money that you make outside of Panama. So as long as I'm not working in Panama itself and getting paid from a company in Panama, I don't have to pay any taxes to Panama. So I get away with no tax to Panama and much less tax to the United States. It saves me a tremendous amount of taxes. And one of the reasons why we live out of the country. So I did do there is a link on my link tree that tells more about why we moved to Panama. If you're interested, you can go watch that episode and see why we moved there. Yeah, your gas taxes, Deborah, are out of this world. It's really incredible what taxes people have to pay. Now, somebody said, what about Dubai? A lot of people move to the UAE because there is no personal income tax in the UAE. So if you are a wealthy individual, I'm talking very wealthy, like $100 million or more, you go to live in the UAE and move your company over there or whatever, and then I'm not an expert on their taxes, but my understanding is you don't pay any income tax in the UAE, and that's why a lot of super wealthy people live over there. I mean, to me, if you have to pay more than half your income in taxes, which most Americans probably do, and they just don't know it, there used to be a word for that, and it was called slavery. Because if you don't get any of your money between January and the middle of June, you're a slave of the U.S. government for half the year. I wasn't getting any of my money until September every year, so it's unbelievable. I couldn't take it. I couldn't do it anymore, and that's why we left. And we're very happy. Although the U.S. under Joe Biden has worked very hard to close many of the loopholes that we were able to take advantage of legally. So now my tax bill has doubled in the 10 years that we've lived in Panama, from about 15 or 16% to now 35%. And it's going to keep getting worse. Is food cheap? Where, in Panama? depends on what you're eating. If you're eating local foods, then yes, they're cheap. But if you're eating American foods, then it's not. Yeah, keep sending questions. Did Mia get released? No, Mia did not get released. They can give Ukraine 500 billion. Okay, now Callie Fortune. Can I address that? We did not give Ukraine 500 plus billion dollars. It was about 100 billion up to this point since the beginning of the war, which is 2 years ago. The vast majority of that money was given in the form of loan guarantees, which means we don't spend any money right now. We're giving Ukraine or some of our other allies in the region, like Lithuania, the chance to buy American-made weapons and not have to worry about if they can't pay it back. Now, most of them do pay it back, and we're not on the hook for that money. But though in that $100 billion that was given for Ukraine, a lot of that money actually went to our allies in the region, our NATO allies, to get them to give their weapons that they had, which were old Soviet weapons, to Ukraine so that Ukraine could keep fighting, and then buy new weapons from us, which makes jobs in the United States. That's not necessarily such a bad thing. But I understand politicians on both sides of the aisle use the numbers of money, the numbers about Ukraine to lie to you for their own purposes. And I did a whole broadcast on that, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And you can go back and watch it, my broadcast about Ukraine, where I explain that in detail. But suffice it to say, we did not give $500+ billion to Ukraine. And at this point, we do have enough invested in Ukraine that if we decide to stop giving them money, we will have flushed all of the money we gave them down the toilet, and they will still lose to Russia. And we might as well have never given them a dollar. So we're in a cook or get out of the kitchen moment now in the war in Ukraine, because the president of Ukraine is in the United States begging us to not stop funding them because they will lose the war without our help. And again, we've been supporting them for 2 years. They have been doing very well, and they could win this war if we continue to support them, and that would be very good for America. Again, this is that argument I'm talking about. Why are we giving money to Ukraine? We should be giving it to American homeless people. Well, how about we never take it from the American taxpayer to begin with? And if the American taxpayer wants to support Ukraine, then they can send money to charities that support Ukraine. That would be better, but that's not going to happen. When it comes to weapons given to Ukraine, the United States gave like $3.6 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine at the beginning, and we gave the Pentagon $9-point-something billion to replace those weapons with better weapons. And all of that money is getting spent in the United States, and it never leaves the U.S. So it's a kind of a self-petting dog. The United States steals money from its people. They then give the money to like DynCorp and Boeing and places like that. And DynCorp and Boeing use that money to hire more Americans. And then the United States government, the Biden administration, can say, look, we're creating jobs. Well, they would create twice as many jobs if they just stayed out of the process altogether and let the free market take its course. But they don't do that, right? So, yeah, I mean, we can go on and on and on about that subject. But the bottom line is America should be involved in the world. If we're not, then Russia and Iran and China are going to take over the world, and that's going to be very, very bad for America. And so if we're going to completely ignore all of the things that are happening around the world, like the war here and the war in Ukraine and stuff like that, then we're going to be an island that gets nibbled away at until we have nothing left. We will be showing weakness on the world stage. We have contractual obligations to why don't we go after Iran? Yeah, we obviously should. Everybody should go after Iran at this point. And actually, apparently somebody did go after Iran today. Here, I just read this morning when I woke up. I read that there was a big explosion in Iran, and nobody's taking credit for it just yet. But I have a feeling that it may have been something to do with Israel over here. taking it to Iran. It probably wasn't the United States. There were also some explosions in Sana'a today, and in Yemen, and the Yemenis fired another missile at another ship that doesn't have anything to do with Israel, and actually hit the ship, and the ship is on fire, and there weren't any American ships around to shoot the missile down when that happened. I tell you what, the Houthis are going to get what's coming to them, and they're not going to like it. But there was a very interesting, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to be done. It was a very interesting article that I read this morning that was postulating that perhaps the reason that Hamas attacked Israel when they did was because they were hoping or planning with all of the other allies like Hezbollah, the PIJ, and the Hashishabi in Iraq, and all these Iranian proxies and the Houthis, that they would all attack at the same time. And Hamas just got ahead of itself and jumped the gun and attacked before everybody was ready, and then everybody else was like, "Hey, wait, we didn't like it." It didn't work because they spoiled the surprise, so to speak, on October 7th. Now, I understand October 7th was Putin's birthday. Is that a coincidence? Is it not? That's definitely the stuff of conspiracy theories right now, that they chose that date. It's actually more likely that they chose it for some more historic reason. I do believe that they chose October 7th for a reason, that there is some historic significance to that in Muslim history, but I don't think it was because it was Putin's birthday. I could be wrong. I don't know, but maybe. Yeah, if you talk about the biolabs in Ukraine, look. Okay, I'll quickly cover this topic. Okay, biolabs in Ukraine. The United States was supporting about 15 labs in Ukraine. Why were they doing that? They had a program. They still have a program through DARPA that went. I'm sorry, through the defense. Oh shoot, what's the name of that program again? I just spaced on it. Anyway, through the Defense Department, they had a program that was trying to help labs around the world upgrade their capabilities, because like every veterinary clinic is a lab, right? And these guys could, in their lab, they could figure out whether or not something was anthrax, let's say. Anthrax being a deadly toxin. But what they couldn't do is tell whether that anthrax was naturally occurring, because in every farm on the planet, you can find anthrax in the soil. It's naturally occurring. But they couldn't tell if it was naturally occurring or if it had been weaponized and created in by a state actor. And so the United States had this program to go around and upgrade the capabilities of labs around the world so that they could tell the difference between weaponized toxins and naturally occurring toxins. I talked to a guy who was a part of this program that I trust very much, and if it's probably as close as anybody in this world could be to a godfather to my children. And yeah, that's it. Defense Threat Reduction Agency. Thank you. So they upgraded the capabilities of labs all around the world, and it actually helped. As a matter of fact, the hoof and mouth disease that came out of the UK back, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever it was caught by one of these labs, and it wasn't weaponized, but they were able to catch it in time so that they shut down imports from that region, and it didn't spread to the United States. So it actually saved us from having to euthanize a whole bunch of cows in the U.S. Now, when it comes to the labs there was a list of these labs that we supported on the embassy's website in Ukraine, the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine's website, up until the war started, and then Russia seized on that and started putting out this propaganda that there were biolabs in Ukraine that were creating, weaponized like strains of toxins and stuff to be used against Russia. That's an absolute load of crap. I mean, it's just wrong. So I went I got the list of these labs, and I went to visit some of these labs around Ukraine. I went to visit them. Now, I've been to biolabs. I've been to bioweapons labs, okay? I've been to bioweapons labs in the United States. First of all, we're not going to support a bioweapons lab outside the United States, most likely, because it's just too dangerous to do. The bioweapons labs I've been to in the United States are in very remote areas for the most part, except for the one in Maryland at Fort Detrick. No, what is that? Fort? Yeah, is it Fort Detrick? Anyway, the one in Frederick, Maryland, which is in a more built-up area. But these things are massively secure, multiple layers of fences, and very, very secure with big signs that say "deadly force authorized" if you come close to this lab or whatever. Because obviously they're holding very, very dangerous stuff in there, right? Well, I went to a couple of the sites of the labs that we had listed on our website in Ukraine, and one of them was right in downtown Kyiv in a residential area, and it had a fence about waist high around it that was just a wrought iron fence, and it had a gate that was unlocked, and they were still operating when I went there right after the invasion started, it was right after the invasion started. And I walked in, it's a veterinary clinic. I walked in and I was like, hi. And they're like, can we help you? And I'm like, well, is this a lab? And they're like, well, it's a veterinary clinic. I said, did you guys get money from the United States? They said, yeah, that building next door. That's what we used to build that building next door. I promise you that was not a weapons lab, because there's no way they would put a weapons lab in a residential area without massive security all around it. And there was no security, okay? I did a video standing in front of that weapons lab. You can go watch the video. It's on my link tree, and you can see it, and you can make up your own mind. I went to another site that Russia claimed was a weapons lab, and it actually was a heating unit that they use. In Ukraine, they'd use the old Soviet method of heating their cities. They have one central boiler plant that boils hot water, and then they pump it through these massive pipes all throughout the city and into every apartment building. And you don't get to decide how hot your house is. It just, if it's too hot, open a window. If it's too cold, put on a coat. That's your Soviet style heating. But one of the sites they said was a weapons lab, and they bombed it outside of Kramatorsk, was one of these heating units. And I went there. It was not a lab, okay? So if you believe that there are bioweapons labs in Ukraine, you have been victimized by Russian propaganda. I can say that with 100% certainty. There are no U.S. built and funded bioweapons labs in Ukraine. There just are not. If you don't believe that, well, I'm sorry. You're wrong. I was there. If you weren't there, then I got you trumped, okay? And I'm sorry if you don't believe me, but again, you can go watch the video and you can see me standing in front of this place. It's obviously not a highly secure facility. It's just not. Now, a lot of people are asking me if I'm going back to Israel after Christmas. Maybe. It just depends. Alexander, I went to 3 different locations of the 15 that were on there. Again, these locations are labs that are either attached to a university or they're a veterinary clinic. Most of them are veterinary clinics because they're more concerned about picking up anthrax that's weaponized and things like that. And again, I did an interview about this with a guy who was part of the program that put this together. He was a U.S. Army colonel who was a veterinarian, and he's a veterinary pathologist. And the guy is a very, very smart guy, and I trust him implicitly. He's a good friend. I've known him for a long time. He explained it all. If you really think there are bioweapons labs in Ukraine, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're just wrong. You don't have to hit the like button if you don't like that, but if you this style of reporting, please do hit the like button. And that'll help show this to more people. All right, so let's see here. What about the lab found in Central Valley of California near Fresno? There may be, I don't know about that one in specific. I've been to the one in Dugway Proving Grounds, Utah, and I've been to the one at Fort Meade in Maryland. Both of those are very highly secure. I mean, like more secure than a supermax prison would be, basically. I guess my mic just. Sorry. I think it's shorting out. Tell you what, I'll just take that off there, and we don't have to worry about that. All right. So anyway, I am going to have to run because I am going to. I'm going to go do my live on CBN News here in about 5 minutes. So if you want to continue the conversation, please go over there. Should Chuck start a vlog? 157 votes. What is this thing I'm doing? I guess this is a vlog, isn't it? I guess, in a way.
I don't know, babe.
What?
Don't ask me. I can't
What's the
really
difference?
Turn my computer on.
Yeah, what's the difference between this and and a vlog? No, we had, say what? We didn't have 3 labs in Ukraine. We supported 15 labs in Ukraine. They just weren't weapons labs. There's a difference between a biolab and a bioweapons lab. There's a big difference. And there were no bioweapons labs in Ukraine, and there was no reason to have a bioweapons lab in Ukraine. We would not trust Ukraine to put a bioweapons lab there. Now, you could bring up Wuhan. Was that a bioweapons lab? That was more a biolab that was weaponized by the Chinese against our better wishes. And that was an absolute clown show over there. Definitely Anthony Fauci had something to do with that. I interviewed one of the most prominent virologists on the planet who helped with the vaccine for Ebola. And she knows Fauci personally and knows all the people at the CDC. And she said, don't trust a thing any of those people say. I wouldn't trust any of those guys as far as I could throw them. And I tend to agree with her on that. A video blog, basically what I'm doing already. Okay. All right, good. All right, folks. Well, I got 3 minutes to get started with my CBN Live, so I better go. But love you guys. We'll see you later. They are still firing rockets. No, that's lightning. It's actually raining on us a little bit here. So there's some heat lightning going on over there. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.